I am super excited to bring someone that I've known for, probably 5 years now into the Modern Marketing Podcast studio to talk about all things real estate marketing and tell her story, because I think that what you're going to walk away with, if you take the time to listen or view this podcast today, is that Rachel Kilmer is doing all the right things from a marketing standpoint, but she started out very, very heavily on the social media side, like so many of us do. So Rachel Kilmer, Reese Nichols, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So I met with Rachel. It was probably almost 5 years ago. She had just gotten in the business. We were just getting into COVID and things like that. And she said something to me when we had a meeting that stuck with me, and I remember it today. But this phrase that she said reinforced the fact that I knew she had staying power in this business, because she was talking about her daily schedule. And she said, when I get up in the morning, I have to do my stories for social media. It's non-negotiable. And when she said the word non-negotiable, I knew she was going to make it. So tell us, because you got into real estate at a kind of a rough time, and tell us about how you got into real estate, how you got through COVID, and where you are today.
Yeah, I got my license in October of 2020. I was a new mom. I had a 9-month-old baby who came along with the pandemic. So it was a crazy year personally. I previously worked in sales at a local senior living community, and I loved that job. I could have done it forever, but they're very old school, 9 to 5 in the office. And I kept getting told no a lot. And I was like, I'm trying to sell. Here's my creative idea. No, we can't do that. No, we don't do that. And so it was frustrating me. And I was like, what can I do that gives me not only autonomy over my schedule, but also autonomy over how I want to run my business to make sales? And real estate just was like a really natural transition. I reached out to someone that I knew that I had worked with in that role, and just was like, jumped on her team immediately. Previously to working in senior living, I worked in television. So I was a sports reporter, sideline reporter for the first 6-ish years of my career. So when I jumped into real estate, immediately doing video content was a really natural fit for me. And it was really exciting for me to be able to get back to that, which was kind of my first love throughout my career.
Yeah, perfect. So you quickly rose to fame on a certain social media platform, actually before a lot of other people did. So let's talk about that real quick, and then we're going to go backwards a little bit from there.
Yeah, so I was making content on YouTube and Facebook. That's what I originally thought would do well for me, as YouTube, because that really kind of is more consistent with the TV world. Even literally horizontal videos, was such a big thing in the TV world. But my sister was like, you really need to be making TikToks. And at the time, TikTok was definitely like a young, like a teenagers doing dances kind of platform. And so I made a couple kind of half-heartedly. And then I made one where I was joking about the different areas of Kansas City and different, basically wealth codes of different areas of Kansas City. And I remember I had zero expectations of it going viral, because I had a big pimple on my nose that I didn't even cover with makeup, because I was just making a TikTok. And I went to bed and woke up the next morning and it was 350,000, 450,000. And it just the views racked up. I think it landed just shy of 1 million. But that was the aha moment where I was like, oh, I can make content about living in Kansas City, and there's an appetite for it and a demand for it. So that's where I really pivoted and honed in on my content being specific to living in Kansas City.
Yeah. So you developed a niche on TikTok, which very few are able to do. And that is around Kansas City, not necessarily real estate, but around Kansas City. How did you quickly figure out, okay, I've got to go hard and heavy on Kansas City? And how did you kind of go into the algorithm and figure out the algorithm and make adjustments from there? Because TikTok was such a difficult platform for people to figure out, because it was kind of a dumping ground for all of your short form videos. So you could have a video one day about your vacation, a video about real estate the next day, and so on and so forth. What lessons did you learn along the way to figure out, okay, for the algorithm, I've got to niche down hard?
Yeah, I think the key with social media is making the platform that you use recreationally your primary place where you make business content too. For me, that's what I was naturally scrolling at night, was TikTok. And so it almost becomes this inside joke. You learn the language of TikTok and what humor other people, what's clicking with other people. You save the sounds that are trending and then make them for yourself. So it just was really, I don't want to say easy, but it was a really natural fit for me. I'm also not like a super polished aesthetic person in general. I'm kind of just raw, real life. And so TikTok was a really good fit for me. Whereas Instagram, I've always struggled with. Like, I feel like Instagram is, I'm like, Instagram, why do you hate me? But TikTok made sense that way. I'm really fortunate that I can see the data on my followers on TikTok. There's 22,000 now, and almost 80% of them are local to the metro, which is just unheard of on TikTok. So this is kind of one of those things where I'm like, if I was giving another agent advice right now, would I say hammer TikTok hard? No. I think it was right place, right time, right algorithm at that moment. And I've been able to adapt with it and roll with it so far. But there may be big changes to the algorithm again this year. And I'm very aware that, it could be taken away at any time.
Sure. So you just said, you wouldn't recommend for an agent to go hard and heavy on TikTok right now. Okay. What if an agent was getting started with their branding journey, their social media content journey, where should they go?
Instagram stories. Even if you're not building a huge following on Instagram, I was just talking to an agent yesterday that she's like, I hate doing social media. And I'm like, you don't have to sell houses to random people from social media, but the people that you already know are on there and scrolling. So just staying in front of them in a way that's not like, hey, are you ready to buy or sell? But like, here's where I got my coffee this morning and this is my order. It can be really natural and organic. And if you're not, Instagram's great, stories are great, because if you're not comfortable talking to camera, you can do pictures with text over them too. Snap a picture of your lunch and then type what you got and post, what you're doing that evening with your kids, because that content is for people you already know rather than internet randos, which is what I call my TikTok people. So I think I think it's a lot easier to use social media to stay in front of people than to try to chase down the internet randos.
Yeah, I agree. So a large portion of your business over the past 5 years has come from social media. And I know you track those numbers religiously. And this is actually very, very impressive that she does such a good job at it, keeping her thumb on where her business comes from. Can you give us kind of a rough overview of where your business is coming from today?
It's funny, I just dove into these numbers this week because I have a speaking engagement with agents where I'm speaking on social media specifically. And I've always said 30 to 40% of my business comes from social media. And that was true. But now my units have increased, but the social media has stayed consistent. So my internet rando social media leads hover between 10 to 15 per year. So because my total production has increased, it's not 30 to 40% of my business anymore. But what you can't pinpoint and track is how many of my sphere and referral people also were touched by my social media. I'm going to say all of them probably. So now my business is over 50% sphere repeat referrals. So those are people that I already know or friends or family of people that I already know. But I still think the social media aspect of it is huge in that percentage of my business as well, even if they're not just truly organic internet randos.
Yeah, perfect. So right now it's you, and how many other people do you have helping you in your real estate business?
Not enough. Currently, it's me and I have 2 full-time admins. And then I have a roster of other agents that are on my team, but I pay per showing to help me with showings. It's a balance to try to figure out how to staff and when, because the market ebbs and flows so much. But my lead admin has been with me pretty much since the jump, and she is like my ride or die and could not function without her. And she does all of the things behind the scenes to keep me out in front of people. And that also includes social media. Yeah. It's like what anything that it doesn't have to be me, I try to outsource to them, because the things that have to be me are the things that will grow the business.
Perfect. So, you don't have a large team. You're killing it. And one thing that I've noticed over the past few years is you are very public about your goals. Mm-hmm. At the beginning of the year, you will tell everyone on social media what your goal is, halfway through the year, where you are at the end of the year, how you finished up. Mm-hmm. How do you stay so goal focused and goal oriented in such a crazy business that's pulling you 50 different directions in an hour, much less a day?
I'm a dog with a bone. Goals, that is what keeps me going. Literally when I very first got into the industry, I had sticky notes kind of hanging in front of my desk on my computer. And at that time, the goals weren't production numbers, but it was like create this many videos this week, contact this many people, get this many addresses. Now my goals are units is what I really focus on. Is I try not to focus on volume too much because you just don't have as much control over that. I really focus on units. And for me, it is I literally print out a paper chart. I fill in the houses. I document it. I'm really open with people about my goals. Last year I hit it. This year I'm probably going to fall like 6 units short. But every year I set a goal that's like kind of crazy to set. Like my goal this year is 18 units higher than my goal last year. And that last year my goal was like 12 units higher than the year before. And every year I'm like, this is insane. But I was talking to my broker last year and I was like, this is a crazy goal to set, right? He's like, yeah, but if you set a goal that's reasonable and hit it, how are you going to feel? And I'm like, underwhelmed. So I have a disease, I guess is how I would answer that, where chasing goals down is what motivates me. So it's really, I think if you haven't like created a visual goal chart and tracked them visually, you should try it because it is crazy what that does for you psychologically.
So I want to touch on this just a little bit deeper because goal setting for some individuals is so difficult. And I think different people react differently to goal setting and what actually works or doesn't work for them. Can you kind of explain your process? Because that fascinates me.
So I look at the previous year's data and I look at how many leads came from each different lead source and what I can reasonably expect each lead source to grow and what I'm going to spend my time on. So my first year, I did a lot of open houses and I had like 3 or 4 open house closings, but I hate open houses. So my second year, I was like, I'm going to leave that open house goal at like 2. I don't want to grow open houses, but social media at that time was really taking off. And I was like, I should be converting more business from social media as this platform has grown for me. So this year, it's late in the year. I'm looking to set my goals for next year. We've noticed that my business has shifted to where most of it is coming from people I already know, past clients, referrals, sphere, people So that has changed my approach to as I'm laying out my marketing plan for next year. I'm still going to be making social media content, but I'm going to be making it with those people in mind more than the internet rando. And I'm going to focus my budget and my time and energy on things that love on those people versus the internet rando. So it's a lot more in-person marketing.
Yeah, I would almost, if that wasn't such a mouthful, I would have you say that again, because I think that is so powerful, because I think agents get so caught up in chasing the internet randos out there, that they get away from their sphere. They get away from loving on the people that are going to give them referrals. So absolutely gold. That's perfect.
Yeah, I have a lot of people that I do a lot of, I'll speak on panels to other agents, and it's always about video because that's like the sexy, cool thing. And I'm like, it is, and it has worked out really well for me. So I hate to be the one that's like, do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. But I do think that it's kind of like chasing the white whale. When you have people right in front of you that are excited for you and want to support you, why are you going over and focusing on these randos when you have a whole community right there that is willing to support you and all you need to do is turn your attention towards them? Okay.
So on your sphere, on your database, how are you growing that every single year? Because I know agents struggle with growing a database. How are you growing that? Okay. And then as you continue to add to your database, what actions are you taking to get in front of those people on a regular basis, stay top of mind, so on and so forth?
When I first got my real estate license, my database was my Christmas card list. I had about 120 people on my Christmas card list that I imported. Then I went through and exported my contacts in my phone into a spreadsheet and went through and texted and called those people, hey, what's your email address? Backfilled their contact information. That got me probably over 200. Then I went into Facebook and exported my friend list and went through and messaged people on Facebook. And some people ignore you. Some people didn't answer, but I just came across a file the other day. It was my first grade teacher, and she's been in my database, and I can see that she's been opening my emails for 5 years. Has she bought or sold with me? No, but like she might have said my name to someone that did. Now my database has over 5,000 people in it because I am methodically always thinking to add people to it. Anytime we do anything, we'll do like giveaways. We always do a Google form that where we get name, phone number, email address, mailing address, every single thing. And you can do this at super low cost. One good example is I did Chiefs magnets, like just fridge magnets after the last Super Bowl we won that had like the 4 different trophies on it for the 4 trophies in Chiefs history just to celebrate it. Those cost me like less than 50 cents each to make, and created a Google form, sent it out, and we had hundreds of people fill it out. And those are new leads to add to the database. So it's just kind of thinking of ways that are cost effective, low effort to continue to build out your mailing list.
Yeah. So using pardon the pun, lead magnets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Literally. Yeah.
to grow your database. So, and that strategy absolutely works. It's just, you gotta do it, right? So that's where I think a lot of people fall short, is they've got the ideas. You excel on the execution side, which so many people fail with.
I think a huge thing that is important in this industry, and probably any industry, that people forget is how quick you have to be to pivot. Read the room, read the market, and read what your numbers are telling you. I feel emotionally attached to TikTok because it has been such a huge piece of my business, but I have to look in the mirror and understand that TikTok isn't paying my bills anymore, and pivot before it's too late and adapt to the things that are paying my bills. So one example that I did this year that was huge for a lead magnet is I'm focusing on my farm more, my community where I physically live. I created a fridge magnet for, like you see for Chiefs, football schedules, but it was the district calendar fridge magnet. Those have gone crazy. People have loved them. And I've gotten so many names, contact info, phone number, mailing addresses for people that are an acquaintance that I didn't have contact info for before. And I think that is going to be huge for me moving forward, to have, not only are you using lead magnets to get information, but specifically information from people that you already have a connection with.
Perfect. All right. So let's pivot just a little bit. And this is one reason I really, really wanted to get Rachel in here. Everyone wants to gravitate towards the sexy side of the business, which is social media and so on and so forth. But what you have done a marvelous job with is you've diversified your marketing. And so you're doing some of the unsexy things, but at the end of the day, those unsexy things are paying off. So let's talk about, besides social media, what other marketing channels, lead magnets, growing your database, so on and so forth, what other things are you doing?
Postcards, snail mail. I send a postcard pretty much every month of the year, and that goes out to about 2,000 people. So that's not a cheap thing. This is a big spend. That's $24,000 a year, basically, just on postcards. But I think it's huge. I think it's really important. I see a lot of agents where they'll do a postcard on a just sold or like a just listed, but then you're never hit that neighborhood again. That is worthless, in my opinion. The postcards go out to the same people every single time. And sometimes they're real estate, but oftentimes they are invitations, which is to my events. So that's the other thing. That's probably my biggest spend, is events. It's right there. Postcards and events are my 2 biggest spends. And events that I have, actually this week I have my 4th annual trivia night. That's been my longest running event. That works really well for my clients, my people. And everyone's invited. All 2,000 people on my mailing list get the postcard, they all get an email invitation, and they all get a mass text invite to my events. So I have postcards, events, mass texting, which I only do about once a quarter because people do not like to get texted. And then I do a monthly e-newsletter through MailChimp. We created templates in Canva, so it's a plug and play. And then I just change the content of it every month. My e-newsletter is kind of a market update, but more like what I've been up to. This is what I'm thinking about. The month that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce got engaged, the headline was like, OMG, can you believe they got engaged? It's lighthearted, but it's what I would be talking about with people if I was grabbing a coffee with them, as what I'm posting about or writing about in the newsletter. And our open rate in that hovers around 30%, which I feel like is pretty good considering it's going out to 5,000 people.
So in a world where so many agents are relying on third-party services or their CRM to send out a newsletter once a month or a couple times a month, and it's, how to update your kitchen backsplash and so on and so forth, you've taken a different approach to the newsletters, and I see them every month. I'm on your email list. How long does it take you to put together the newsletter, and can you give the audience just some ideas on the different sections? Because it's not all real estate all the time, which is perfect.
Mm-hmm. So the big lift in the beginning was creating the templates. That took my lead admin like several days to put those together. But now I would say it takes her on her end, like actually assembling it, maybe 2 hours. And then for me writing it, less than 30 minutes. And I have the subject line is huge. You got to grab their attention. It can't be just November newsletter. No one's going to open that. And then I have a little blurb. It's like 2 paragraphs or so that go with the subject line of like whatever's on my mind. Like I said, it can be something pop culture. It can be something local going on here. It can be a market update. Like the last one was a pretty heavy market update because I'm like, our market has shifted and people need to know that and understand where their opportunities are. After that, then it's graphics for upcoming events and things that I have going on. If I don't have a client event, I usually have like, this podcast came out, here's where you can listen, or this is where I'm going to be volunteering, doing, whatever, community work. After that, then I put 3 TikTok videos that have either performed well or I think would be interesting to the people opening it. And then at the bottom, I feature a listing that I currently have on the market. And then actually before the featured listing, I recap the month's transactions. And it's not this house at this address sold for $500,000. It's this family had to relocate because of a job, and I was able to help relieve their stress because of X, Y, and Z, and kind of telling the story of the transaction. So it's the same exact format every single month, but it feels and looks different because we change the content.
Yeah. So to do a successful newsletter, it can't be real estate all the time. You've got personal things in there. You've got events in there. I've seen where you've had lender minutes in there where you'll have your lender write a little blurb about something. And so you're constantly changing it up. Visually, it's a beautiful template that you guys have put together. So newsletters work. Newsletters absolutely work, but you've got to take the time to put yourself into the newsletter, not have it be some third-party canned crap that nobody's going to read.
No one wants a ChatGPT apple pie recipe. Sorry, no one wants that. I think the brand is a huge deal too, that I think a lot of people don't put enough time and effort in. Is what is your brand? Who are you? What do people think of when they see you? When they see your colors, your fonts, your logos, it should immediately go to you. And we use the same brand fonts, colors, logos. And even as simple as we use really clean lines on our graphics, we don't use circular graphics, we use rectangles. Just as simple as that, it really keeps consistency across the platform. So whether they got a postcard, they opened my e-newsletter, they saw a template post on Facebook, it's the same all the way across the board. And I think that's something that if you're an agent that's kind of reevaluating your business, that's not a huge cost to really hone in on that and focus on that I think can go a really long ways.
Yeah. So talking about brand, your brand is more than just your fonts, your colors, and your rectangles. Mm-hmm. You've got kind of a unique brand and you've brought some pop culture into your brand. Do you want to take a few minutes and talk about that?
Are you saying that because I am known as a Swiftie? I literally have a tag in my database for over 400 Swifties that are Taylor Swift people. I know of 4 specific transactions that have closed because of my Taylor Swift marketing or just because they're like, I know you're a Swiftie, so I want to work with you. But that's just who I am. My brand, your brand is who you are. Yeah. So that's what I really focus on is like, how can I be the most authentic, genuine version of myself and be consistent in that? And so my brand, I always joke, is like I'm your real estate bestie. I'm having my website redone and there's a little more AI involved than what I'm comfortable with. It frustrates me so much. They literally wrote the headline of my website is your real estate bestie. I'm like, I don't want you to literally say bestie, but like that's the vibe we're going for. Just your neighbor that you can go to, be like, hey, where's the good cocktail spot? Or like, hey, where did you have that really good fried chicken? And I that's who I am in real life and who I like. I love to be a connector, and that's true connecting people, but also connecting people with like great small businesses around the area, or like, hey, have you ever been through this neighborhood? It's so cute and so slept on. So that's who I am in real life, and so that's who my brand is. And so I think about that, and every single piece of content I create is, am I being consistent with the brand? Some of that for me is I don't post a ton of like flashy, like look at my success kind of content, because that's not who I am. I drive a 2016 Toyota with 200,000 miles on it. Like I literally am your neighbor, I am. And so I think it's being consistent with that, of like with who you are to your core and your brand is important, even though like sometimes I see some of these other agents that have like awesome killer brand photos where they're like in black and they like have stilettos on. But I'm like, that's not me though. That looks awesome for them and maybe that's who they are to their core, but that's not who I am to my core. And I try to stay really true to that.
Yeah. Well, and 8 out of 10 times that I see you, you're wearing either some type of Kansas City sports gear, some type of Kansas City something. Mm-hmm. And that's part of your brand. That's what people are used to seeing. So
It is. That was a little bit of intentional laziness that now I can get away with showing up in sheepskin to appointments and no one's surprised by it. But yes, that is a big part of my brand too.
So if you would have come to me and you said, Kevin, I'm going to start doing events in Kansas City around Swifties, I would have probably rolled my eyes and said, good luck with that. How did you pull that off? Because you not only pull it off, you make it work really well.
The first one I did was when the Eras tour was coming to town. I knew it was going to be huge. This is before Travis, and really before we started seeing a lot of like Swiftie pop-up events. I reached out to a local distillery that I think is a really cool place to go. That people know about it, but it's kind of off the beaten path. So not everyone goes there. So I was like, hey, I want to do a pop-up event and have people selling Swiftie merch, listen to Swiftie music. You guys make a Swiftie cocktail. It's going to be huge. And they were like, here's this table over in the corner. You guys can have this table. And I was like, I think you're underestimating the Swifties. And they really, I don't think, believed me, because the night of the event, we had over 1,800 people come through the doors. The line was wrapped around the building, and they were furious at me because they were so understaffed. And I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry for giving you the best night of your sales this summer, but I think people just didn't know what a cultural phenomenon Swifties are at the time. So at that point, that's when I built out my Swiftie mailing list. So I bought a neon sign that said "In My Kansas City Era," and I wanted to keep it so bad, but I didn't. And we raffled it off. People signed up to win the sign. It was a $400 sign, and I got over 1,000 email addresses and phone numbers and mailing addresses for that sign. So then that naturally led to the next thing, was then I did Swiftie koozies. That fall was when Travis and Taylor started dating. So we did a Chiefs koozie with the heart hands, and it had his jersey number on it. And we were able to email all those people, text all the people who wants it. Mailed them their koozies. And then it led to a Taylor Swift themed first time homebuyer class, which I know sounds crazy, but if you're a Swiftie, you get it. We took every step of buying a home and broke it down to one of her albums, and it was themed to each album. We had it in my office. We had like her favorite snack and her favorite beverage. And we even had a local drag queen come out and do like a Taylor Swift set in my office. It's so niche, but if you're in that community, it means so much to you to work with someone that you feel like has that shared mindset and, view. So from that class alone, I think 2 of those 4 closings came from that class.
Yeah, amazing. So for someone that's struggling with their personal brand, trying to figure out what their personal brand should look like, obviously they're not going to be able to replicate what you do, but what advice do you have for someone out there that needs to recreate or to polish their brand?
Don't get distracted by what everyone else is doing. Don't listen to this and be like, I need to make Taylor Swift content. If you don't even really care that much about Taylor Swift, there's a couple of agents in my office that are phenomenal. They are amazing at what they do, and they both have a background in interior design. So a lot of their events are kind of based around that. Like they rent a bus out twice a year for the Parade of Homes and bus their clients to see all the homes, and then they take them to local boutiques to like buy stuff for their homes too. And when I saw that, my first thought was like, that is genius. And then my second thought was like, I'm kind of jealous. And then my third thought was, I'm not them, So in that instance, I took inspiration from their event and I thought, how do I take that idea and that concept and make it me? And that ended up being an event where I have a tour guide come out and have them do a tour of downtown Kansas City, talking about Kansas City history and culture. And that's more specific to me and what I'm interested in, what I spend my time doing. So I think it's just really evaluate what you're interested in, what your hobbies are, and don't get distracted by what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. How much real estate should be in your brand versus how much you should be in your brand?
For me, it's like 80-20. It's 80% me and things I'm interested in. If you look at what I'm posting online, it's very rarely like real estate specific. The 20% that is real estate specific is not because I feel obligated to post something about real estate. It's because it's something that I feel passionate about educating people on. So I hope it comes across as really organic, because it is. I'm not out here just like, what can I post about the real estate market today? It's like when I post about real estate, it's because I'm like, hey, you guys really need to know about this program, or hey, you really need to understand this is what's going on with the market.
Yeah, perfect. So back to the unsexy side of the business. Let's talk about your CRM, and let's talk about your website, which you said you're getting redesigned, which you just, I think, redesigned it 2 years ago or something like that. So how much emphasis do you guys put on your database, on your CRM, so on and so forth? Because again, this is an often neglected area in a lot of agents' businesses.
Yeah. I would say it's more every year, more emphasis on the CRM because it's not fun. It's not fun to sit there and do your tasks. But it's huge. I've had several closings this year that we looked at afterwards and I was like, you guys, we closed this one because of our CRM. Because in a year or two ago, they would have fallen through the cracks. Because I do get a lot of web leads that are like, social media leads or whatever. They're like, hey, Rachel, I want to buy next year. And then I forget about them. And then I don't hear from them. But lately, because we've been focusing so much on the CRM, we're not letting those people fall through the cracks and we're getting those closings. So we use Follow Up Boss and we hired a third-party company to streamline it, create drips, action plans, emails, custom staging, all of that specifically for us. I want to say that was about $3,000 and that was like the best spend I've maybe made in my entire real estate career because it is so specific to me and my business and how my business runs. So my goal is to spend time in it every day, going to my tasks and hitting those tasks. And I also, this comes from my sales background, when I never leave a file without making sure they have a future task assigned to them. Even if it's 2 years from now, I want to make sure that it brings me back to them eventually so they don't fall through the cracks.
Wow, that's awesome. You never leave a file without making sure that there's a future task assigned. I love that. That's perfect. That's perfect. What else on the unsexy side of the business are you guys doing that's often overlooked or not promoted in the real estate world?
One thing that we are putting a lot of emphasis on right now is just like wowing people with our service, customer service. And that sometimes doesn't come naturally. It's like you have to pause and think, is this really exceptional or is this just what is expected at this moment? I read the book Unreasonable Hospitality this year, which if you haven't read it, it's phenomenal. I literally was like, wow. It's about a chef that worked in fine dining restaurants. He wasn't a chef. He's like ran fine dining restaurants. So you wouldn't think it would apply to real estate that much, but it did because any customer service-based industry it applies to. And that is what I'm constantly talking to my team about. I'm like, is this unreasonable? Are we being extreme about this? So we have a closing this week and they're moving out of state. And so those people are really hard to buy gifts for, closing gifts for. Like, what do I buy for them? They don't want junk. They're moving. So we got them a gift card for like a brewery where they're moving. And I'm like, we spent the time to find a brewery that's closest to their house. We knew they liked beer, but I'm like, that still doesn't feel like enough. So my team was like, what if they have dogs, they love their dogs. What if we create care packages for their dogs for the long car ride to their new destination? Yes, that is it. It's that little extra step that you can take to make sure people feel seen and like you've heard them and understood them throughout the process.
Yeah. I just had someone, it was a mortgage lender, give me that book yesterday.
You're going to love it. It's so good. Yeah.
Yeah. I hadn't heard of it. And it was in a room full of people and everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's the best book. So yeah, I can't wait to read that. I can't wait to read that. All right. So let's go back to advice for real estate agents out there, because right now we are entering a market that is challenging and it's been challenging, but it's really shifted in a different direction that we haven't really experienced for a number of years per se. So for an agent out there that's struggling, that's getting down on themselves right now, that's maybe starting to slack on some of their activities that they know deep down inside that they should be doing, what piece of advice, what little kind of get up and go do you have for them?
Yeah. I mean, when I got my license in 2020, my first real year in real estate was 2021. You put a listing on the market, it sold, Now it's like but at the time you had to grind hard for buyers. The buyers were such a grind. I became an amazing buyer's agent because of what a grind it was for buyers the first year of my career. Now it's basically flip-flopped. Depending on the price range in the area, which is what's really hard with clients is it's mixed messaging coming to them because a $250,000 buyer has a completely different experience than a $500,000 buyer and vice versa with sellers. So I think it's getting really clear with people on communication, setting good expectations, doing so much about real estate. It's like everything in life, right? Like we know the things we're supposed to be doing. Drink water, get 8 hours of sleep, exercise, eat your vegetables. It's the same thing in real estate. Like you know what you're supposed to be doing. Do it. Get up every day and do it. And as you progress, you'll figure out which of those things are working best for you. Like for me, open houses don't work great for me, mostly because I don't like them, And so if you're not passionate about some people though, like if you're a super extroverted person, which I am extroverted, but like you thrive off of talking to people, you would crush at open houses because your enthusiasm for being there is what's going to lead to success. Yeah. So I think being really self-aware about what's working for you and what's not, and stop chasing this shiny object that's not working for you, focusing on the things that are, even if they're not super exciting or sexy. I don't enjoy spending spending $24,000 a year on postcards. I don't really like snail mail, but it is super impactful to my business. I know it's important to focus and make sure we do that every month, and that it's every single detail is consistent with the brand and with what message I want to be sending out to people.
So it goes back to 4 to 5 years ago when you told me on your marketing, this is non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that mindset is what has gotten you to where you are today.
And I would say Instagram stories are still non-negotiable. In fact, they've probably gotten even more important for me as time has passed, now that my business has evolved, and it's like you want to connect with people that already know you. So you know what your non-negotiable thing is, and it's just committing to it and staying with it.
Perfect. So you're starting to do, it's not necessarily new, but you're increasing your activity level, and that is public speaking.
Yes. Yeah, I found that there's a lot of noise in the real estate environment, and I've listened to a lot of different coaching programs. Frankly, I think so many of them are so outdated and don't apply to a modern agent. And I've found that like when I share I'm an open book. I do not gatekeep anything. Like, ask me my business plan, I will lay it out for you. And I found that really is received well by other agents, because we're tired of being sold stuff. We're tired of being told we need to go knock on doors and that we need to make cold calls. That's not real life in 2025. So what can you actually do in a day-to-day basis tangibly is what I've really had a lot of fun communicating with other agents. I've also done a little bit of coaching where I write business plans for other agents for their year. And I had one recently that reached out, and she's like, this is amazing. One of her, it's silly things. One of her events, they love their dogs. So it's like, your dogs are your brand. You need to do a bark at the park at your local baseball stadium and invite all your clients and get branded dog bandanas. And she was like, oh my gosh, it's genius. And she said it was received so well from her clients. So that's so rewarding for me, because I know how hard this business is and how frustrating it is when you feel like you're spinning your wheels because none of the existing coaching and advice makes sense for you. I get it. That was me. So I'm really excited to kind of be able to connect with people in that way.
Awesome. So if you're part of, let's say, a real estate association across the country, so on and so forth, how do they reach you about the public speaking?
I think the best way to get a hold of me is I'm anywhere online. Rach the Realtor KC, my website, Instagram, TikTok, social media. My phone number, email address is out there. If you're a real estate agent and I can't find your phone number in 30 seconds, like, we're doing something wrong. So you know where to find me. I'm all over the internet and would love to connect.
Yeah. I actually had someone yesterday, I couldn't find their email address online, real estate agent.
Yeah.
And I looked everywhere.
I have that happen all the time. It's shocking. We do reverse prospecting. So we reach out to agents that have a buyer match, and all I get is their name. So we have to go seek that information out. It's crazy how long it takes. I'm like, guys, it's the little stuff. It really is just the little details.
Yeah. Awesome. So as part of your brand too, Rach the Realtor, and you've been Rach the Realtor since, I guess, day one.
Yeah, pretty much since the jump. I don't really even remember where that came from, but that's my brand. And that's like, I sometimes will have people stop me in the street. They're like, oh, you're Rach, from TikTok. Like, yeah, that's me. A little embarrassing, but yeah, that's me.
What did we not talk about that you want to talk about today, Rachel?
You asked me about the website. Yeah. I think that, so I have spent a ton of time and money on my website, and I've learned some hard lessons that I would like to save other people from learning. I did it cheap from the beginning. Just spend the money on your website. Just do it. Hire a good company. You can do it for like $3,000 to $5,000. Get a killer website. I've spent probably double that over the years trying to fix and tweak this like piecemealed website that I first created when I got into the industry. And I think that goes back to what I've learned is you have to be so decisive and so quick to pivot on things and accept, there's a business term called sunk cost fallacy, which is where you chase the money you've already thrown at something. You're like, I've already invested so much into it. I have to keep chasing down that path. No, that is a fallacy. Don't chase what you've already sunk money into if you know it's not right and you need to pivot. So yeah, I just redid my website a couple years ago. I tried to do it cheap, and I've had to look in the mirror and say, it's not good enough, not in 2025. So I'm pivoting and focusing on that. And I'm doing that in a lot of different ways in my business because of the way the market has changed too.
Perfect. Well, and it gives you so much flexibility on what you can do, whether you need your own landing pages off your website. I led a class on AI yesterday and getting found by AI. So, people are starting their searches not in Google anymore, not even on social media, but in ChatGPT. And having your own website gives you the flexibility then to go in and put certain code into your website that now AI can find and that they can recognize. You can't do these things with a brokerage website. And so my advice has always been, if you need to start with a free brokerage website, do it. But as soon as you can possibly afford it, go out and get your own.
I would say that's your first big spend. That's really should be your first. After your license, next thing should be website.
Yeah. Well, and if you move brokerages and you've got a brokerage website, you've got to recreate the wheels. Yeah.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What else do we want to talk about today?
Man.
That I missed. I know we kind of went 90 miles an hour. But what I wanted to really stress is that you started off on the sexy side of the business, very heavy on social media. You got business from social media. You've gotten clients from TikTok, which, I know a lot of agents find hard to believe, but you've done a really good job. But then you've diversified your marketing and you've got into the unsexy things and you're working on your website, you're working on the CRM, so on and so forth. And so, it's not just a one-sided marketing show. And we're in such a noisy, busy world right now where there's 1,000 different real estate coaches on Instagram that all have their courses on how to make $1 million in GCI next week, just off Instagram and so on and so forth. And you've realized that's not really the case. We've got to make sure we're doing all the right things and doing them consistently.
Yeah. I mean, I believe that there's people out there doing that because I'm sure there's people that don't believe me how much I've generated from TikTok. But it's like the rare case, what is the like most likely path to success is the thing that's been proven over time. It's just connecting with other humans that are already in your life. And how do you do that and meet them where they are in a way that is, effective in our modern era? Like people don't want to be called on the phone. Let's text them. People don't want to get mass text. Let's send emails, just really thinking, what do you want to get from people that want business from you and kind of doing that in your own business.
Yeah. Awesome. Chiefs going to make it to the Super Bowl again?
Kevin. That's a really stressful question for me to answer. They've turned it on lately. If I was like had to bet money on it, I would say yes. Yeah. If I had to bet money on it, and I hope they do because I think this might be our last year with Trav and Tay. So we really need it, but we've gotten so spoiled that it's like if you would have asked me as a kid like that question, that would have been, I would have laughed at you. Like, that is a joke. But now here we are like, are we going to go to the Super Bowl again? I don't know. We're so spoiled right now. I love it.
And have you gotten your invite to the wedding yet?
No, but my daughter is 5 and she's been in Flower Girl in 3 weddings in the last 2 years. And she's convinced that she's going to be the Flower Girl. So we've had to have some tough conversations that she's like, Mom, but Taylor. I'm like, honey, I don't. Unfortunately, no, Taylor. I'm a little bit ashamed that I've led you to believe that with my parasocial relationship with her, but so we're still working on that one.
That's great. Well, Rachel Kilmer, Rach the Realtor here in Kansas City. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming in, spending time. Guys, check her out on socials. If you need an amazing speaker, and I mean an amazing speaker for an event nationwide, reach out to Rachel as well.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Thank you.